Hi there, I'm standing outside BBC Broadcasting House where I've just been interviewed by the fantastic Vanessa Feltz. Have a listen to our interview and hopefully it will help make your mind up about which way to vote in my hometown of Croydon Central next week.
First of all, it's a week to go until polling day. I know you know that. And on The Breakfast Show, we've been focusing on the key seats in London. Today, we're looking at Croydon Central. It's sandwiched between the Labour safe seat of Croydon North and the Conservative voting Croydon South. It's split down the middle politically. It's divided on Brexit too. It's the ultimate swing seat and a key battleground for politicians here in London. Labour took the seat from the Tories with a majority of 5,652 votes in the 2017 general election. And the Conservative candidate running this time is local councillor Mario Critura, who joins me now. Hello.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So, your predecessor, we know this already, Gavin Barwell, wrote a book in 2016 called How to Win a Marginal Seat and promptly lost the seat a year later. Do you wish he'd never written it, or have you read it very clearly and committed paragraphs to memory?
I think every parliamentary candidate should have read it. It's the Bible for all campaigners. But I think if you look at one of the reasons why we lost the seat, and one of the elements that Gavin mentions in the book, is those things that are out of your control, the national picture and the way that impacts voters' preferences on the ground.
I mean, everybody who loses a seat could say that, though, couldn't they? They say it was out of my control. I mean, the art, presumably, if there is such a thing, is somehow, or rather to, I don't know how you do it, but to marshal national events that are out of your control and make it seem as if you could control them. Isn't that the key here?
It sounds like you need to read the book, Vanessa. It's got some great tips about how to win parliamentary seats. And I think, when you've got an electorate like Croydon Central, very discerning, very intelligent, who have diverse issues and diverse needs, and bear in mind there's about 80,000 electors, it does take some time to talk to them, persuade them, listen to them, find out their issues so you can then respond to it in a meaningful way.
I mean, I get that this is very difficult because you don't know what to preach, because you don't know what the person whose door you're knocking on wants to hear from you. You don't know if they're pro or anti-Brexit. You don't know why they did or didn't vote Tory. You don't know what they're going to say. It's a very difficult task you have, no question, all you candidates there in Croydon Central.
But that's why it's so fantastic. It's one of the reasons why I've been knocking on doors and campaigning in Croydon for more than 10 years is because of that sort of thrill of energy that you get when you knock on someone's door and you think, how can I help you? What are your issues? Can I help you, in all honesty?
And what are the key issues that are emerging, A? And B, have they surprised you? Have you thought, well, in advance, I know exactly what people probably care about? Or have you found issues emerging in Croydon that even as a councillor serving there, you weren't necessarily aware of?
I mean, it would be very arrogant for anyone to turn around and say that we know every problem coming, but you can see the key indicators. Obviously, this is a Brexit election. That's the biggest issue dominating everyone's minds. But of course, they're concerned about all the other things. It's a general election, not a specific election. It's about how you're going to impact the cost of living on their household, the economy, the schools, the hospitals, all of the issues that really matter to everyday people.
Are you able to furnish people with any answers to any of their questions or dilemmas? You know, when they say, I fear the impact of Brexit on my business, or indeed the opposite, I can't wait for Brexit because I need it to give my business the fillip that it needs, or because, our family feel very strongly, we're anti the EU, whatever it is they say. Are you able to say anything at all that's kind of concrete and informative to them?
Absolutely. I mean, and people you really get this, that the reason why we are where we are, and the reason why we're having a very cold December election at the moment, is because of that indecision, that Parliament being blocked and bunged up by politicians arguing amongst themselves, the dither and delay. And so if you're someone who wants to get Brexit done and you believe that there is a way to do that by giving Boris Johnson the Conservatives majority, then that means you can break that deadlock. All 634 Conservative candidates have said they're going to back Boris's deal, which means that if he gets a majority, we'll get Brexit done by the end of January, and it means we can move on to other people's priorities.
But is it stinging you to have to say all of this, because you're claiming to be fully signed up to getting Brexit done, Boris's catchphrase, but you were a Remainer originally and you converted to the cause in order to run for election. So do you believe in any of this? What you have to preach on the doorstep, is this something you actually feel or believe?
So I didn't convert because I was a parliamentary candidate or wanted to be one. I converted because I'm a Democrat, and whilst I did want us to initially remain in the European Union, I if I got a parking ticket and didn't pay it, there'd be consequences. And I think it's the same for trust in our institutions. And it's the same with the police and the care service and the council. If you don't believe that when the public directs politicians in a certain way in a democratic vote, the largest we've ever had, and then they ignore it, that shakes the foundations of our democracy. And I do not think that's healthy.
I know other people say, well, that what you call dither in Parliament is the democratic process taking place. So it's all the politicians who are elected by Remain voters trying to, push the interests of their voters. And that's what politics is meant to be. You sounded just about a couple of minutes ago as if you weren't in favour of that. 1 minute you're in favour of democracy, the next minute you don't seem to fancy it very much.
Well, I think there's that tension, it's true, between the representative democracy that we have, where you send someone to Parliament to take decisions on your behalf for 5 years, and if you don't like them, you kick them out next time. But this was such a totemic issue, and when the public so clearly gives a direction to Parliament for it to be frustrating that democratic will so frequently and so often, leads to a lot of the rancour that we're seeing on the streets and hearing on the doors of Croydon Central.
When we had your opposition in earlier, the Labour candidate for Croydon Central, I said to her, do you think the fact that the Brexit Party is standing is the greatest gift to Labour you could possibly have? Because aren't they going to split the vote for the Tories? If you're pro-Brexit, you might vote Brexit. Are you worried that they're going to rain on your parade?
No, not at all. I mean, if you look at, and you said earlier, the diversity of Croydon Central, there are several areas where you have very strong Leave communities that traditionally voted Labour. And so the question is, and we don't know the answer to this just yet, we'll find out in about a week's time, is where do those people go? If you are someone who's been Labour 40 years and you're never going to vote Tory, do you go Brexit Party, or do you vote for Boris Johnson's party, who will get Brexit done? And that's the big question and the test at this election.
In the European elections in May, the Conservatives came fifth in Croydon, behind Labour, behind the Lib Dems, behind the Brexit Party, behind the Green Party as well. So do you feel you've got a real chance of winning in this general election?
Absolutely. The historic nature of the seat is that it's always been tight, as was said in your report earlier, because of the demographic nature of the borough.
Yeah.
And European elections are very, very specific beasts, and we saw that in the 2014 elections. And I think people use it as a way to express their dissatisfaction with the elite liberal establishment in Westminster. And so I think that it sends a very clear message that because the Brexit Party did so well in the European elections, that actually this seat, for a party that actually can get Brexit done, it's all up for grabs.
Now I'm going to do what I've done with all the other candidates, and I'm going to say this. Mario Creature, a Conservative candidate for Croydon Central, you have 30 seconds to tell us why the residents therein should vote for you as their MP.
Thank you. We're still arguing about Brexit because the 2017 election created a parliament where nobody was in charge. It created gridlock, delay and confusion. This election is a choice between driving real change for our country or more of the same old politicians arguing. I was born in Croydon, grew up locally and have lived here my entire life. I was state educated and my parents came over from Italy when my dad was 16 years old. And I believe that the aspirant, diverse, incredible nature of Croydon is best served if we can get rid of that deadlock, we can make it actually work for the people and focus on the things that really matter, like investing in our local hospital where I was born, the police who serve us so well, and our precious school system.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in. Very nice to meet you. Good luck. We'll be hearing from the other candidates. I wish them all luck as well, standing in Croydon Central later in the show. And a full list of candidates in every constituency is listed on the BBC News website. We'll be straight back with you, lovely listener, after the travel.